Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's City Council meeting. And in keeping with our long-standing custom, I would ask that you join us in a moment of quiet reflection. And in our best thoughts and prayers are the victims of yesterday's shooting in D.C. We want to keep those folks in our best thoughts. And also, one of our city employees, Buck Samples, is getting ready to take a medical leave. Going to be out 3 or 4 months, and I'd like us to keep Buck, one of our stalwart employees, in our best thoughts as well. Thank you very much. And one of our most environmentally friendly folks who is a newbie to the environmental business, Lindsay Beaver, is here this evening. Would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, young lady? The first word is I.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I'm looking for Linda Wolf. She's not here? Oh, there you are. You got a fancy hat on tonight. Wow. Would you like to come forth? We've done this once already, but we're going to reread this proclamation that we did without a crowd last week, and then you can bring us up to speed on the 2017 Relay for Life. Does that sound like a plan?
She forgot something.
Yeah, I've got to take my notes or I'll forget it all.
There you go. I feel a little underdressed here, Linda.
Yes, you will. You should feel this.
My gosh.
Yes, I'll explain all this little get-up here.
That's a stunning outfit. I mean to tell you.
What do you think of that?
Let me grab my glasses because even with a size 14 font, I'm not too good with this. This is the Relay for Life of Upshur County proclamation for 2017. Whereas the people of Upshur County joined together 20 years ago to fight back against cancer, and whereas the diagnosis of cancer in Upshur County remains steady, with an average of 143 people being diagnosed each year between 2009 and 2013, and whereas Relay for Life is the signature activity of the American Cancer Society, and whereas Relay for Life of Upshur County is not just a fundraiser, it is a unique activity that offers an opportunity to participate in the fight against cancer, to honor cancer survivors, and remembers those lost to the disease, to build a network of businesses and health organizations to address community cancer issues, and to recruit new volunteers to deliver American Cancer Society programs and services. And whereas Relay for Life of Upshur County has had a significant presence in our community for the last 20 years, has touched thousands of our residents, and has raised $2 million to help fight the battle against cancer. And whereas Relay for Life of Upshur County invites cancer survivors, their caregivers, and the community to the 20th annual Upshur County Relay for Life on July 15 at Jawbone Park. Now therefore be it resolved, I, as Mayor of the City of Buckhannon, hereby proclaim the month of July in the year 2017 as Relay for Life Month in Upshur County, and urge individuals, families, businesses, schools, service organizations, churches, and neighbors to unite in the fight against cancer, to honor cancer survivors, and to remember those we have lost to cancer. Given under my hand and the official seal of the City of Buckhannon, this 8th day, we did this last week, of June 2017, signed by me as mayor. And we can't say enough. We appreciate your group's efforts. It's one of these days. Maybe we won't need to have Relays for Life. Isn't that the mission?
I know that is the mission.
So now I got to take a picture of the best dressed gal in Buckhannon here.
Is it the Roaring 20s theme?
It is the Roaring 20s
That's
theme,
what I
so
thought.
that's why.
Do you want to be?
Yes, come on, Bobby. You can get
I don't feel so bad now.
There we go.
Oh, dear.
Okay.
Everyone had that vote.
I had too much sun.
She wearing?
Are we good?
And yes, and what was your name?
Bobby Stell.
Bobby Stell.
Yes.
And you're gonna tell us some things.
Oh, sure
You
is.
got the podium over there if you'd like, and it's all yours.
I'm not very good at standing behind a podium, so I'll kind of stand kind of close to the podium because I'm usually a walker. You know what you mean, how you walk around, you know. But anyway, it took just a tiny little bit of coaxing, just a tiny little bit of coaxing. Well, just from, well, you know, who here. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that the reason that I have this outfit on today is, of course, this is our 20th year. And the theme of our 20th year is roaring 20 years and going strong. So that is our theme, and we started back in the fall of last year, and we have what we call our official kickoff. Well, it was quite the time because we were either dressed up in this, and we had flapper girls, and we had gangsters, and it was quite the good time that we had out at the Way of Holiness Church. So anyway, some folks had seen me in this and says, come on, Linda, just lighten them up a little bit at the city council, you know. And so anyway, I thought, well, I'll wear what I had on that night, of course. So anyway, the main focus here this evening is especially to thank you, to thank the city of Buckhannon, to thank all those that have supported the American Cancer Society, that have supported Relay for Life. And just like you said, Mayor, it is our prayer that someday, it'll be no more, you know. We had our event there at Jawbone last year, and it was an extreme success. We had a lot of folks, and just had a great time. It was a beautiful park setting to have our event, and so we're looking forward to that again this year. It is on July 15th. That's a Saturday evening, and it'll be from 6 p.m. till midnight. And so we invite you all to come down and to be a part of the event with us. Now, with it being 20 years, we plan on having a lot of our different event chairs that over the last 20 years come down. We'll also be having a ribbon cutting ceremony. So, you know, we'll all get a special invitation to come down for the ribbon cutting ceremony that we will have for our event this year. Also, we were so excited. In May of this year, we had our meeting at Chapel Hill, and we knew at that time that we needed $2,906.58 in order to have raised $2 million right here in Upshur County. And it is our pleasure, it is deep from within us, that we thank everyone in the community, all of Upshur County. We did it. We did it. We did it with your help. We have raised $2 million here in Upshur County. Of course, you know, you probably saw the pictures on the courthouse where we took pictures there, and we're just so extremely pleased. 20 years, $2 million. 20 years, $2 million. So we are just extremely thankful for that. I had some questions, though, that I need to kind of throw out just a little bit for discussion. And I was kind of hoping, there he is, he's sitting back there now, that's the man. But of course, last year I worked so much with Jerry, and he was my man that just helped me so much, you know, helped me so much. And so I know that there is a lot of renovations going on at the park right now. You can kind of see the digging and the things going on. So we're kind of wanting just to get an update, if we could, from you, Jerry, possibly on how's the park possibly going to be looking by July 15th.
All the lights will be up and on. We'll have those for the sidewalk if the weather is decent over the next couple of weeks. The sidewalk will be completed. There may still be a little bit of remediation to do in the grass area, but for the most part, the majority of that project will be completed by the time everything.
Okay, I noticed today when I went by that you have a lot of the sidewalk, the U-shaped sidewalk, and then what, is there lights going in place around that sidewalk
Yeah,
area?
each one of those piers with the conduits
Yeah.
you see up, it will be a light post.
Oh, that's nice, because we do a lot of games. We have a lot of good time, you know, and have a lot of games. So last year, you know, we was needing to light up the park, and guess what? Y'all was doing that for us this year, so we're very, very thankful for that. Also, when I had came here much earlier, we had talked about the closing of the streets. And of course, last year, you know, they closed the streets right around, just directly right around Jawbone Park. They closed the street. And there was a question in regards to the police department, or not the police, but the fire department, on how much of the road they wanted closed in front of there. And so I copied a letter from last year, and I thought I would give that to you, Mayor, if you want it. The fire department recommends Florida Street closure from East Main to Madison.
Right. Thanks.
So,
Jerry will work with you to repeat the exercise from last year.
Okay.
And we will put this in the Consolidated Public Works packet for
Okay.
next Thursday's meeting.
all right.
And make sure that those folks are aware of it too. But whatever you need, coordinate either with Teresa out front or Jerry, and we'll make whatever you need to have happen.
I thank you so much. I thank you so much. Last year, you know, we had the raising of our own flag, you know, and so I'll just coordinate that if it is okay with the council here. Nothing new as such, but I will coordinate all of that with Jerry to make that happen this year again, if that is satisfactory with you all.
Yep, absolutely.
He's the man.
He's the man, huh? I have one question here. Of course, the kids always come, you know, and they like light up things, so on and so forth. And so I will ask on this, and of course you can say a quick yay or nay on that, but are the children allowed to have sparklers in the city park?
The fireworks expert in the group is City Attorney Tom O'Neill. I'll defer to his expert advice.
Okay.
But I think sparklers might be
Yes,
okay.
sparklers are fine, as long as they're not thrown from a moving vehicle, or
Oh.
thrown into a moving vehicle, or into a structure, or create a risk of fire.
Okay, all right, well then that's super, because the kids always like to have, you know, light up things, and I thought this year, especially with our celebration, you know, that if they could have some sparklers, you know, that would just be a little added, you know, to that. So is there any questions that you might have?
Does anybody have any questions for Linda Wolf?
Just thank you for everything you're doing.
Yes, thank you. We support you wholeheartedly.
I know you
There's
do.
nobody in the lot that hasn't been touched by it in some way.
Well, that's the thing, you know, when you talk to somebody, you know, if you haven't been touched by cancer yourself, you know, either a family member, a neighbor, or a friend, someone that has been. And when we talk about cancer, you know, a lot of times we think it's one cancer, but there's over 100 different kinds of cancer, you know, so we've come a long ways.
Yep.
We've come a long ways, and, you know, I hope that we continue to go in a positive manner, you know, on finding a cure. You know, they've come a long, long ways with the research that they've been doing. I will leave you with one thing. We have of course, Relay for Life is all about sponsorship and sponsoring Relay, and it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money for research, education, and prevention when it comes to the American Cancer Society. So I would like to, if at all possible, just leave this with you. This is a sponsorship packet. Sponsorship starts at $250 and can go up to wherever the sky's the limit. And if you all would like to maybe look at that at some point and would be interested in sponsoring the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life right here in Upshur County, this is the packet that you would use to do that. So can I present that to you, Mayor?
Absolutely. And we'll encourage everyone out there to become part of the support for the organization. Thank you.
All right, well, that's it for me. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda.
I thank you. Thank you.
Amby, do we have any other, I didn't get the guest sheet tonight. Oh, it's up here. Never mind. I'm sorry. Right in front of Dr. Susan Alloway. There's nobody else that has signed up to address council,
Larry
but I
Brown.
have, Larry's not here?
Oh, he didn't come back.
No.
6.
I have asked a couple of folks to come this evening because it ties in with one of our finer moments of recent months, years, whatever. But last Tuesday, several of us went down to Charleston. We had been notified in May by Callie Cronin Sams that we had been selected by the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection for an award. And I'd been to one of those on the city's behalf years before, and I recalled that there were a couple of dozen entities and people that got awards, and it was like, okay, that's terrific. Buckhannon's going to get an award, and we'll go down and smile and have our picture taken. And there's this terrific program that they give you when you get there, and I'm going through the program, and I keep turning the pages, and there's no reference to Buckhannon in the program until you get to the very last page. And I assumed when we were on the very last page that we must have just eked something out that just like, we got to come up with a 20-second winner, so give it to those bozos in Buckhannon, right? So one of the staff members of Cabinet Secretary Austin Caperton did all of the awards going in chronological order through the program until they get to Buckhannon. And then the fellow says, I'm going to turn this last award over to Mr. Caperton. So he comes up and proceeds to say our grand award, the biggest award, the one that honors the greenest, most environmentally protector-friendly community. It was Buckhannon.
Wow.
And so we've got our, we're telling everybody this is green recycled glass. That's our story. We're sticking to it. And I hid my water bottle so that it wouldn't be
Contrast.
Alloy's always giving me grief over that. But we have so much to be thankful for, not because we got an award, but because of the excellent stewardship that primarily our employees have exhibited, not just in the past year, but for the last 20, 30-year period of time as we became very environmentally sensitized to being good stewards and protectors of our little piece of the planet here. So I thought it would be appropriate to do a couple of things. In a little bit, one of our strategic matters is going to be a resolution basically establishing what has informally been our city's policy for many years, number one. But number two, I think it's important, anytime we do something well, we just kind of take it for granted and move on to the next thing. We're gonna become more mindful and thankful of those who have led us into this position of being good stewards. So we've got a new award that we're starting. It's going to be the Green Bench, and I have asked some of our more recent contributors to this effort to be here this evening, including Callie Cronin Sams and Lindsay Beaver. Those of you who may not know who Lindsay is, you're now going to be a senior out at the high school, is that right?
Graduated.
You just graduated. Where are you going to college?
WVU.
WVU. Well, that's my alma mater, so I was hoping we'd get you at Wesleyan, but anyway, that's a good second choice, Lindsay. Lindsay, was it December or January that you came to a Consolidated Public Works Board meeting? It was in the wintertime, and we're not thinking a whole lot about wildflowers and bees and things like that in December, January, but as a high school student, she had this excellent proposal that we should go out and buy some wildflower seeds and plant them in our parks and our FEMA lots and along the river trail. And okay, we got a lot of flowers already, Lindsay. Where are you going with this? Well, these wildflowers are the best draw for cross-pollinators, which we generally call bees. And we learned things like 90% of the food crop in the world is generated as a result of cross-pollination, bees. And bees have been threatened in recent years. So anything we can do to enhance the population of bees is something that will serve us all immensely well. So Callie, would you come forward? And Lindsay, would you come forward? And Jerry Arnold, would you come forward too? Because we're gonna do something there.
I'm going to get the nest of bees out.
You're gonna get the beehive out?
Bring them on.
It's an artist's nest. Bees have hives.
Literally a thorn between the roses here. Okay, this is a proclamation. Whereas our City of Buckhannon employees and Buckhannon Upshur residents for decades have collaboratively engaged in implementing many sound practices that have been protective of our environment, and whereas our BU community's positive stewardship of our small portion of our planet has featured such initiatives as curbside recycling, establishment of a state-of-the-art solid waste transfer station, various protections of the Buckhannon River, implementation of best practices at our municipal water and sanitary sewer plants, extensive tree plantings, the establishment of a geothermal heating and cooling system at City Hall, pesticide-free practices in our city parks and river walk trail, employment of a full-time horticulturist, and creation of our city sustainability committee. And whereas there are persons who have led Buckhannon's environmental protective initiatives, resulting in our city having been awarded the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection's Cabinet Secretary's Award for 2017, the highest honor that may be bestowed by our state for environmental stewardship. And whereas our city government desires to recognize those special people who have helped establish Buckhannon as the greenest, most sustainable, and environmentally protective community in the state of West Virginia, by dedicating in their honor the green bench that soon will be installed in front of the City Seal mural upon completion of the forthcoming sidewalk and landscape improvement project at the West Main and North Locust Street intersection. The 10 inaugural green bench honorees being the late Bob Coit, the late Don Gasper, Burl Smith, Rodney Carr, Joyce Harris Thacker, Bob Brain, Donnie Tenney, Jerry Arnold, Callie Cronin Sams, and Lindsay Beaver. Now therefore, I, as mayor of the city of Buckhannon, pursuant to the power and authority duly vested in me, do hereby proclaim Thursday, June 15, 2017, to be Green Day throughout Buckhannon. I further direct that a permanent bench be installed in front of the City Seal mural at the West Main and North Locust Street intersection in honor of those persons who have led our community's environmentally protective initiatives. I urge all citizens of our community to pause and reflect upon, while appreciating the leadership of our Green Bench honorees, and to join their families, friends, and our city family and community members, and me, during the forthcoming dedication of our improvements, and especially the installation of the Green Bench in front of our City Seal mural, given under my hand an official seal of the City of Buckhannon, this 15th day of June 2017, signed by me as mayor. And Callie, congratulations to you, and thank you so much for nominating Buckhannon. If we don't get nominated, we don't get an award. Lindsay, thank you very kindly. There's something for you to hang on your dorm room wall at WVU. And this guy, he never takes credit for anything. It's always the guys that work for him. But without his leadership, we'd be nothing. So
Thank you, Jerry.
thank you all very much. We appreciate you more than we can express in words. And we now the pressure's on. We got to come up with some more stuff to be even greener. Can you put a plug in for us for 2018? Can we win it 2 years in a row, Callie?
Well, I don't know if you caught. I don't know if you caught at the ceremony down there that Austin Caperton actually said this was not in the nomination. I said the HVAC system, but he said the entire city runs on geothermal power.
Maybe that misnomer is what got us here. We don't want the truth to get in the way of a good story.
I'll make sure it gets announced.
Yeah, we're not geothermal everywhere.
Right.
Okay, can you guys get a little bit
sure, don't
together? Hug Dave, Jared. No, I'm just kidding.
Dance kick thing, right?
All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so they're each recipients of this award.
These are 3 of the initial 10, and many more to come. Absolutely. And before you guys go, you can go back to your seat, but I'm going to do mayor's prerogative here and pull a matter out of strategic stuff that I want you to be aware of as
I
you,
didn't even
before
see
you
it
leave.
go around.
So,
He went that
thanks
way.
again, ladies. Appreciate you very much.
Thanks.
You don't win, but I can.
Is it like that?
Go ahead,
AY. Okay, I know it. It just.
If the council will indulge me, under strategic issues this evening, we're just going to take this one thing out of order, is F1, Resolution 2017-06, City of Buckhannon's recommitment to environmentally conscious, easy for me to say, initiatives. And you have this in your packet. Bear with me while I run through this very quickly. Whereas our City of Buckhannon employees and Buckhannon Upshur residents for decades have collaboratively engaged in many sound practices that have been protective of our environment, and whereas our BU community's positive stewardship of our small portion of our planet has featured such initiatives as, and I'm not going to read those same things that I just read in the proclamation, they're all in there though. Whereas the City of Buckhannon was honored on June 6, 2017 by the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, receiving the state's highest award, that is the Cabinet Secretary's Award, and whereas notwithstanding the much appreciated DEP recognition of Buckhannon, there is much more work to be performed and many other collaborative projects that may be undertaken here to protect our environment, particularly improve dissemination of information to our residents who are partners with our city in our good stewardship. And whereas the Council of the City of Buckhannon desires to strongly manifest our city's most substantial endorsement and support for all environmentally friendly initiatives, while encouraging and partnering with civic, educational, business, and other governmental leaders and organizations to continue our development and realization of the most environmentally sustainable practices and policies, while further recognizing members of our BU community who have been substantial contributors to our city's sustainability efforts. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Buckhannon as follows. 1, that the City Council hereby formally and in all respects endorses and affirms the continuation, establishment, and expansion of environmentally protective initiatives throughout our City of Buckhannon. 2, that our city's elected and appointed officials and all municipal employees shall be committed to planning and working with our residents and all civic, educational, business, and other governmental leaders to establish and expand our Buckhannon Upshur community's comprehensive embracement of and support for sustainability programs. 3, that the City Council supports the recognition of those members of our community who have been substantial contributors to our city's sustainability efforts. And 4, that this resolution or a copy thereof may be provided to any and all affected persons or entities to manifest the City of Buckhannon's most substantial commitment to the continuation, establishment, and expansion of our city's environmentally protective initiatives, including but not limited to state and or federal governmental agencies, supportive private foundations, and other potential grant funding organizations, and any and all other affected persons or entities that may reasonably come to be involved with bringing to fruition our city's policies and projects that are protective of our environment. Ladies and gentlemen of council, I would entertain a motion that as an entity, the City of Buckhannon do merely what we have been attempting to do for the past 2 or 3 decades, which is to be the best, most excellent stewards of our part of the planet that we possibly can. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner. May I have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a second by Council Lady Capari. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for...
Yes.
There is discussion.
I'm a little uncomfortable with the statement where it says all environmental
Yeah, I didn't
protective
read that.
initiatives.
You already took that out once.
I heard you read it.
I didn't,
thought heard you read
no,
it.
you heard wrong. I took it out. You asked me to take it out and I deleted it.
Okay, thank you. I thought I heard you read it.
You're out of order. Now, is there any further discussion on the motion? I've been wanting to do that since last October.
Is it a resolution or
First
a
time.
motion? David, resolution or motion?
How to make friends.
And influence enemies, right? It's the other way around. Mr. Thomas, question?
Is it a resolution or a motion?
It is a resolution.
So roll call, right?
Roll call.
It would be a roll call. Good point. Okay, well, let
But
me...
we still have to have the motion, correct?
Yeah, we still need to, we should still have a motion on the resolution, and then we'll do the roll call, yeah. So I got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. And now the roll call vote in order here. Dr. Alloy,
Yes.
Pam Caperi,
Yes.
Mary Albaugh,
Yes.
Robert Skinner,
Yes.
Clifford J. Rylands,
Yes.
J. David Thomas,
Yep.
and the mayor votes yes too. So we are good to go.
We have a
It's-
copy to
it's-
sign.
Yeah, it's the original there, and we'll send copies to you guys too, so that you know that your efforts have evolved us to formalizing our position to being good stewards. And I know as we put together that list of the first 10, there'll be some, what about such and such? If we missed anybody, I guarantee you, by the time we get to dedicating that green badge, we'll have everybody accounted for, and we'll make it a very special occasion, July or August, whenever we finish that project up. And hopefully you guys will all be there to celebrate with us. So thank you all for coming. You're more than welcome to stick around and listen to this wonderful meeting.
Get out while you can.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cal.
Thank you again.
Appreciate
All
it.
the
Lindsay,
work
thank
that
you.
you've done
Thank you.
this year and in previous years.
Thank you, Cal.
Thank you.
All
Proud
of
of
you
you.
all and the city employees as well.
Thank you, Cal. I thought you were going to say something about the sustainability. You want to do that under your comments maybe in a little bit? Can you talk a little bit about some of that? Okay. All right. I think Larry Brown still isn't here, so I don't think Larry's coming. So let's get down to department and board reports. And first up is our Public Works Director, Jerry Arnold.
He's otherwise occupied.
He's making change in the back of the room.
Signing autographs.
Signing autographs. Wants to see if his trophy's bigger than the ladies. We'll come back to Jerry. Amby, can we jump? Should we fast track it? You snooze, you lose, old buddy. That's the way it goes.
Jerry was busy anyway. He's just getting in from a call just before council meeting started. Okay, so my report, we're preparing year-end closing. Departments are to curb and stop their spending, hopefully tomorrow, unless they have an emergency or something that's unforeseen, until June 30th. We're preparing city license renewals. A meeting was held to explain changes to city employees' benefits on June the 6th. One of the subjects that was brought up during that discussion was the possibility of tiered employees. And no council is considering this, and I just wanted to mention to them that there's going to be, I've looked at the employees roster, and there's about 15 employees that could retire in the next 5 years. So I'm kind of telling you this because those 15 employees will probably need to be replaced. If we were using today's insurance rate, and that's before our increase on July 1st, that most of them are employee and spouse. So that rate's about $18,240 a month for 15 employees. If you were considering just paying for the employee, you'd save $146,000 a year. If you consider the employees paying about 15%, you would save $33,000 a year. So I'm kind of just throwing that out there to keep remembering that, because you'll be losing some employees, and as you replace them, you may want to consider that they're in a different tier than the rest of the employees. We received our renewal from Brick Street for workers' compensation that goes into effect July 1st. The expiring premium is $146,000, and the new premium will be $114,000. So we saved some money there. Our EMOD reduced, as well as the rates for each of those classifications.
What is our EMOD?
I think 1.8, 1.79, somewhere in there.
Okay.
It reduced.
You want to tell what the EMOD is?
EMOD is when, Robbie might be able to explain this better. EMOD's an experience modification rating, and they compare historic claims and payroll to other businesses or other employers that are in the same type of business against those claims. And we are looking better than other people. I guess you might want to say it that way. So Robbie might want to explain in a little more detail.
That's very close. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Close enough, huh?
Yep.
That was a significant decrease.
Yeah, about almost 10%. Fire department finished their agility testing on June the 10th. Written examinations for probationary firefighters. It's going to be held this Saturday. 10 candidates are taking the written test, and that's pretty good. 10 candidates passed the agility test. After that, just heads up, the Fire Civil Service Commission is going to submit 3 names for certification to the City Council for interviews. 2 of the candidates that were on a previous eligibility list asked to remain on it with the score that they had. Just as a matter of information, Dog Park Committee has collected almost $8,800. That includes, the city's donation, but have to admire a group that really is passionate about their work. Yeah, they've been working hard. One of the items I want to talk to you about that is one that Dave Thomas had asked me to get information on and address. Jerry had done some preliminary work, but we have lost, I don't know if I want to say lost, we've had employees leave, quit, or retire in the last couple of years. From 2015 to 2017, 11 employees have either left or retired. And through attrition, and through changing classifications of employees, some being replaced with part-time people, some being moved around in other departments. He'd asked me about what type of savings, including benefits, this would have on the impact it would have on the budget. So with wages and benefits of 11 persons, and don't get too excited when I tell you this number, I'm going to take a little bit more. So it's $660,000 a year through attrition and retirement. Given that, council gave some of the supervisors an increase for those added responsibilities through attrition that they took on. That amounted to about $33,000. Then in moving people around in classifications, one of our full-time employees actually moved back to part-time. We moved another person into 2, that was a 2 full-time position, 1 person in to take care of those 2 jobs part-time. So 1 person took over 2 jobs. That impact was $42,500. So if you take that away from the savings, that was $585,000 savings in a year. So then, in March and April, Jerry asked the supervisors to do evaluations and classifications of their employees. Each department had already done evaluations, but they really never were compared much to each department and what classification those employees were. For instance, if you have an employee that's classified as a 6 employee, in one department, they may make as much as $2 more as a classification 6 employee in another department. So he saw that there needed to be some equalization in those departments. So when the evaluations came back and we looked at what should be done to begin the equalization, the merit, the additional responsibilities these employees took on, there's been recommended raises for these employees to take effect in July. And that would impact the budget by $120,000. So when that takes effect, you'd still have a net savings of $464,500 a year, considering all those changes.
464 what?
464.5. So he'd asked me to give you that information, and I think we have to be
That is a significant
kind of proud of ourselves.
amount of
Really.
money. And,
Yeah.
Kudos to, for the city doing this. It needs to be really recognized, I believe, that doesn't happen very often. And a lot of people deserve credit for that.
We're at 84 full-time employees right now. We were at, 13 months ago, we had 92 full-time employees. So we, the city, have, we're a $12 million a year operation if you add up the general fund with all the utility bills. And when you're talking almost $500,000 in savings, That's a substantial chunk of change.
Yep.
And it lets us do projects. It lets us build more sidewalks and pave more streets and do improvements to the Jawbone Park and the Public Safety Complex and the Stocker Youth Center and here at City Hall and across the board.
That's spread out through all the departments, and just so the public knows, that's not $464,000 in the general fund itself, so.
Now,
those
Has
are all
the percentage of labor costs per revenue modified over this period of time?
The last analysis I did on that was early in the year, before I had these numbers, so I'm sure it's going down, I mean, but I don't want to tell you a number and not be accurate.
Well, I think I've found that you pay, it's easier and less expensive to get the job done paying a little more than the norm to less people than trying to keep, the cost down and get more people.
Yeah, and a little bit of overtime is better than hiring another person.
and you're also treating the employees of the city equally, right? And it didn't sound as though that some were balanced in there with the amount of money they made per hour.
There were adjustments that were needed and they were made.
Right.
So
That's great.
that $120,000 increase, is that going to take effect July 1st, these raises, or when?
That's correct.
In July.
And that was built into the budgets that were all previously approved by all of the utility boards as well as by us for the general fund.
So are we taking it all the way to equity, or are we taking a step halfway there or something? 25% of the way?
I would estimate 60 to 75%.
Wow.
It's really difficult.
So
when there's-
the glaring differences are being addressed, and we'll work towards having all classifications equalized down the road.
So I'd say in a couple of years, everything along the way, it has been, but in a couple of years that we could realize equalization across the board.
I can't compliment Jerry and Amby enough for pulling this all together.
Great.
It's a fair enterprise. We have, I don't ever want to use that trite adage about cutting fat because that devalues those employees that have left us. And they were all excellent contributors. But we've managed to get a little leaner and, not meaner, but leaner in our operations and save money. And it's all about efficiency.
And that's what these two have done.
Well, all the departments, it's
All of them.
supervisors are.
All of them.
Are to be
Congratulations.
commended for their work.
That's great.
Thanks, Amby.
Thank you.
Any questions for Amby before I call Jerry back up? Mr. Jerry Arnold, what do you got for us?
Good, thank you very well.
That's not true. We see all the stuff.
Very little. I don't have anything new under my director's report for this meeting. Supervisors, we discussed performing of department safety assessments and reviewing them during the mid-July supervisors meeting. I think I've reported before about that's our next step in our overall safety programs, reevaluation of what our activities are, what the hazards are, identifying those, and then what steps do we take to remediate them. The group will be developing a site safety assessment form, and that came about with reported that we went to a Brick Street meeting here at the Bicentennial some weeks ago, and that's one of the things that we fall short on is documentation. And again, I went to several seminars, and I've been told that if it's not documented, it didn't happen. No matter what kind of safety program you have, it's documentation. So we're working on. Again, that's the first thing our supervisors, our crew leaders do whenever they go onto a new site is assess the overhead power lines that we need to be aware of and using an excavator. Of course, the utilities called in for digging. So we have steps in place and they're doing the site evaluations. They're just failing to log that and document. So we're working on more or less a generic type form that they can take pictures, document their site assessments, and then those will be kept on site at each department for, if
You keep it electronically?
yes, we'll put that in. So it's just another step in our safety program that we're looking at. Also, we discussed the need for all conferences and training to be approved by the appropriate supervisor. We were having some conferences, and again, it wasn't a good handle on it, so it's just a little more housekeeping as far as the paper trail and approval process for that. Under the water department, they're clearing trees at the Victoria Hill tank site in preparation for the water tank construction and continue to replace residential meters. Sewer, at the time of this report, I had nothing new to report, but after the sanitary meeting, next council meeting, I'll have more to report. I will tell you that I made council, but late, and of course, I was thinking about on the way over here, last meeting, I think it was that, maybe the one before, I was jacket and tie, and tonight is kind of.
We'll never forget that.
Construction casual, but we had a backup Ambi. Thankfully, Ambi came in, and I was glad. I kind of discounted it at first, and then I thought, no, I better go take a look. She came in and said there was water on Willard Way, and typically after a downpour like we had this evening, 10-15 minutes, it's slow to drain on Willard Way. That drain's been like that for some time now, since last winter anyway. And I told her, well, usually in 15 minutes it goes away. I said, by the time I drive over there, it'll be gone. And I thought, I better just go check it out. So I walked over and it wasn't gone. So long story short, it took about an hour tonight to get out. So I called Raz out and Brad, and they're going to formulate a plan in the morning and do some investigation, do some TV over the line, see if there's a blockage somewhere, if there's a collapse. So again, thank Gamby for letting us know, and thankfully I didn't just discount it like I originally.
Sometimes naggy females come in handy,
That's
huh?
exactly right. Exactly right.
She said that.
She was meaning it to you.
We're not allowed to say
Everyone
that.
knows that.
Waste, nothing new to report. The street, of course, is working in Jawbone. Again, the guys are making pretty decent progress. We've had some really good weather, and it's remarkable that how you get into the season and that ground will be totally a swamp. But I was down there earlier today, and I couldn't even hardly scratch the surface with my probe. I was trying to find a junction box, and so it's just amazing how quickly that. Yeah, especially you have a couple, 3 days of good weather and it dries up. Still working on that. Under engineering, just some updates to the freshwater mussel survey bid. The contract was awarded to All-Star Ecology for $10,375. Leeson Drive water and sanitary sewer extensions, Jake continues to work on those. Again, we're continuing with the Stockard gym addition cost. The survey bid opening for the city property, that's the FEMA lots, and we have the Pex Run property as well as the lot behind the Gibson Library. That bid opening will be June 26th at 1:30. Source water protection plan, we held a meeting on June the 6th. That was the required annual meeting for source water protection. And that's all I have in my report. I would add, I wasn't expecting to be recognized for recycling or our efforts, but again, it wasn't me, and it's a very small part of a big, much larger picture that was started before my tenure here, and you had some people with vision that started a program before it was mandated. And then you had a very strong waste collection board that continued to support recycling, even though it's not a venture that as a private sector businessman that you would go into to make money. And so you have a commitment from an organization and a board to do what's right. So again, it's all the employees. It's not any one of us. That's all I have unless there's questions.
Questions for Jerry Arnold. Tell all the guys in all the departments, Jerry asked me if he wanted me to have him drill a hole in this so I could wear it as a locket. Can you still do that? We want all of the employees, not just here at City Hall, but all of the utility board employees to know that this is their award, as well as various of our citizens that have been on us to be better stewards of our part of the planet. So be sure that we can't exploit this enough. We're going to have new signs at the access points coming into town. We're going to have places championing this in various public places. It's something to be proud of, but it's also a catalyst for us to do even better, and we can do even better. So.
Thank you for Shore County. Everybody in the neighborhood loves it. They talked at Blacktop Work.
Questions for Jerry? Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Mr. Tom O'Neill, our erstwhile city attorney. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things for everyone. Start out with a couple of maybe public service announcement type things, just to bring attention to the public. It's been brought to my attention that we may be having a problem around town with individuals posting signs on utility poles. There is a state statute that prohibits that activity. So whether it's for a yard sale, whether it's for a business or anything, you cannot post private signs on utility poles, as well for that matter within Department of Highways rights of way. So just a warning on that. In addition, from a safety perspective, there have been a couple instances of appliances with doors, such as refrigerators, being left street side. Law requires that if an individual does that, that they remove the doors from the refrigerator in particular. But there are other appliances, stand-up freezers and so on, that anything where the door seals, the doors have to be removed in order for it to be outside where there's potential for it to be an attractive nuisance to children. Continue to work with Vincent Smith regarding the Wood Street property. We've got two issues with that. The lingering issue regarding the structure itself and the kind of burned out hulk that it is now. Since our last meeting, I have attempted on numerous occasions to be in touch with the property owners to facilitate a resolution of this situation. My attempts have not borne fruit. So with council's assent, I'm going to have Mr. Smith issue a citation, or ask him to issue a citation under our ability to do that through home rule, and begin the process, which may result in the city demolishing the building itself and then charging the demolition costs back to the property owner as a tax lien. And so the property owner would then have to reimburse the city with their annual property tax payments, or if not, the property will be sold for non-payment of taxes, and a tax sale purchaser would then have to pay those costs. I understand that the city's already been sold once for taxes, but that would be this would be a new lien on the tax sale purchaser. And yeah, I realize this fire happened some time ago, and for residents of Wood Street in that area, I regret that this is a lengthy process, but we're talking about a potential taking, and due process considerations come into play, and there's a reason why this takes as long as it does, and it's a good reason.
You need a motion? You need a motion?
Well, let me get to the second part of that. I don't need a motion for that first part. There's an ordinance on the books, and we can proceed with enforcement. Where we do need a motion, but we're not in a posture to entertain one tonight because it's not on the agenda, has to do with the grass on that property. The existing zoning ordinance permits the city to go onto the property to cut the grass if it's deemed unsightly and it's being left derelict by the property owner. However, it's required that the city council make that directive by, it just says that the ordinance says the city council must direct that occurs. My opinion, a motion to that effect would be sufficient. However, it's not on the agenda for tonight, so it can't be entertained. So probably have that placed on the agenda for the next meeting in order to get the legal authorization. And likewise, the charges of doing that, cutting that grass, are charged back to the property owner, and so that will take place. Finally, well, and on that note, I would encourage, being the summer season, all city residents to keep their grass trimmed as a courtesy to neighbors and their property values and so on. So finally, the city has been named as a party to a lawsuit from a former employee. That's a matter of public record. I'd rather not comment on the particulars of the case at present because it is pending litigation, but there has been a complaint and an answer filed with the circuit court, and just to update, just to let council know, there's a scheduling order in place. It is currently scheduled for trial in October, but conversations with the plaintiff's counsel are ongoing. So other than that, it's probably more prudent not to comment further.
Not everybody's on the water board, but you might remind the council about the status with the compact backhoe matter?
Yeah, that suit has been filed. We're the plaintiff in that one. We have filed suit. The time has not run yet for required answer. He still has another week or so to answer. I attempted today to confirm with the magistrate court that service has been made. However, I left a number of messages down there and never got a call back. And so I can't tell you whether or not the defendant in that suit has actually been served. But the suit is filed and it will proceed.
Question for you, Tom. Amby brought up under her report the potential, and we're still discussing this, but there's a provision, I think I want to say 821 of the code on benefits to employees need to be reflected by ordinance. And if we are to re-tier healthcare insurance protections for our employees, such that at a date certain, new employees would enjoy different entitlements than current employees. You might be checking that out while we continue to have our discussion internally. And I would tell you, council, I sort of have whenever we do this, I sort of have January 1 in my mind as a date to establish this new tiering. And this is already our last meeting in June. You know, the ordinance process is a 2-3 month thing after we figure out what we want to do. So we don't want to be waiting, if we're looking at a January 1 implementation, we don't want to be waiting until Thanksgiving time to start talking about this. So as Amby mentioned to us, let's be thinking about what we think would be a fair tiered system that we might put in place as early as January 1 of 2018.
Well, I think that's going to be dependent on our insurance providers and how their scales are broken down and different costs. I mean, we're going to have to figure out what it is we can offer and what it's going to cost to.
Yeah, there would be
gathering that information up.
There is a financial element about it, but other cities have in fact done this, number one. And number two, I don't want to get into the tail wagging the dog. We can establish our policy and then communicate what we want our policy to be to our carrier and let them react at that juncture before we actually effectuate the ordinance. But I see it as being a cost savings measure. I mean, the purpose of this tiering is to cut costs. We cannot continue even with a $65,000 a year increase. We were looking at 1.8 or 180,000. We got it down to 65,000. We can't continue to amass that kind of. There's a point of no return where it will cost more than what we have to pay the health insurance for our employees. So. Again, this doesn't
Is that a
affect.
question?
This doesn't affect. Well, I'd like you to be thinking,
I will do so.
there's some language that would go in such an ordinance that regardless as to what the tier is going to be, that you could have 75% of the whereases done before we get kicked out.
Understood.
Is there such a thing as a grandfather clause, Mayor, that you
Oh,
know,
absolutely. That's
that,
what.
you know,
I think
that's what we're talking about.
Talking about the tier.
We, just so we're absolutely clear about this, we are not talking about taking health insurance benefits away from our current
Oh, no,
employees.
no.
It's a different tier. For example, one thing that we could do is cover 100% of the employee cost, but maybe only 50% or 60% or whatever percent we're going to cover on a spousal or family plan.
It's the same idea with the police and firefighters' retirement, that after a certain date, you're in a different system.
That's right.
After so
That's
many years
exactly right.
service or something.
No, it's just a date of hire.
Oh, date of hire, okay.
We've always talked about grandfather,
Yeah.
basically.
That's good.
I
Thank you,
have
Tom.
nothing further.
We
have a question.
we appreciate you.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I didn't bring this up. Even though the bulldozer's been delayed due to health reason, we're still on track for a Labor Day weekend ribbon cutting. So we'll need to modify the dog ordinance to allow for an off-leash area if we can do that. And it does take a few meetings to get that passed.
Okay, let's take a look at the animal care and control ordinance, and Tom and I'll compare notes and then share with council and the Animal Care and Control Commission.
And I realize this is a Pandora's box, but there were questions raised about the new ordinance. So while you're looking at it, would you please do a comparison to see if we missed anything?
Yeah, sure. We will do that. All right, Tom, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, likewise.
Chief Gregory. Howdy.
I have a few things to report to council tonight. I've been talking about this for some time now, but we're on the cusp of having our third Youth Police Academy. This began back in 2013. We decided to have it every other year just to keep interest in it as we progress. I am happy to report that we have 21 youth that are signed up for this program. Really nice mix from middle school, high school age, and we have a lot of things planned for them. A lot of excitement. We've talked to some of the kids, the parents, over the last week or so, getting letters and phone calls out to them. A number of things, as I mentioned in the past, that we have planned, a lot of guest speakers coming in. We will have the DUI simulator coming for students to experience that. We are partnering with the Stockard Youth Center to have students bust up to the comm center and take a tour of the 911 center. We're planning mock traffic stops, a mock accident. We're going to work in partnership with the fire department and the EMS to have a grand event with that. We are bringing up a couple of lab technicians from the State Police Crime Lab in Charleston to do a forensics program. Very hands-on, very informative for youth. We are bringing an individual down from the FBI Center to talk about social media safety. And of course, Council Lady Albaugh will once again assist us as a representative from the American Legion doing a program on citizenship. It's always been well received. We're looking forward to that as well. So it's going to be an all hands on deck event at the police department that week. We'll try to get as many officers involved in that as we can. It will be June 26th through the 30th from 9 a.m. to 12. I would like to invite mayor and council to come down to any and all of this. Come see what's going on at the police department, get to know some of the kids that we'll be engaging with that week. We do invite their parents as well if they're able to. They're more than welcome to stay and participate. We've had parents in the past that are part of the program as well. So I'd love to see you folks down there. And of course, Mayor, we do have kind of a little informal ceremony at the end of the week on the 30th around noon, where we present the kids with, they each get us a t-shirt with the Youth Academy logo on it and certificates. And so we'd like to invite you to help us with that. All of this is, we provide snacks for them through the week. They're able to take part in the lunch program at Stockard Youth Center. And we're planning a pizza party there at the end of the week as well. And this is all made possible through a generous donation to the police department. So it's all through donated monies that we're able to do this. I'm very fortunate to receive that. A couple other things to report on. I like to see myself as an ambassador of the city, especially when we reach out and assist our neighbors around us. And through the month of June, I have been an ambassador to the city of Elkins. The mayor and city council in Elkins invited me to take part in the interview process for their new police chief for the Elkins Police Department. I have sat in on the interviews with their selection committee and participated in discussions with this committee. The committee consists of the mayor, 3 council persons, their city clerk, their city attorney, Elkins Chief J.C. Rafferty, you folks know him, and Sergeant Belt of the Elkins Police Department. So I'm a non-voting member. I'm just there in an advisory capacity, but again, I feel that it's an honor to extend the goodwill of Buckhannon and assist our neighbors in that endeavor. I've also assisted Chief Rafferty and the Elkins Police Department with the revision of the policy and procedure manual. I did provide copies of our own manual, had some discussions with Chief Rafferty about some of our policies and specifically how they work, how they function. And I am happy to report that in the revision, they had the new policy. I was actually able to view it when I was at the selection committee a few days ago. And Sergeant Belt said that they went from 25 policies to almost 200 policies, most of which were our policies that they're adopting and presenting to their city council this week. So again, another goodwill extension to our neighbors. Just today, I caused a tremendous headache with Amby and the City Hall staff, enough to make me be an armed escort to the bank with Delana. But we received a court order from Upshur County Circuit Court for an asset forfeiture of $27,759 in cash that we were able to seize from a drug case. This has been tied up in court for about a year, so we're finally able to release that. Through conversations with the prosecuting attorney, this money is to be utilized for police equipment, primarily and chiefly among that equipment will be covert surveillance, which he directed us to upgrade and acquire for the city police department for our ongoing drug operations. We are also looking in the potential, just testing the waters right now, of perhaps replacing our sidearms. Our sidearms right now are well over 15 years old, and some of them are starting to show signs of wear and tear. And so we're looking at that as well. And of course, this money will be used for that. This weekend is the first pool party for UCare for high school students at Buckhannon Upshur High School Pool. As is in the past, we've been very close partners with UCare in a lot of their endeavors. This is a very worthwhile and very good event that UCare sponsors for our youth to have healthy and safe alternatives in the summer. We will once again be partnering with them, and I've appointed Patrolman Barkus to be on hand and assist with that event this Saturday. And that's, I believe it's 8 to 11 for high school age.
8 to 11.
8 to 11 in the evening.
Evening,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Matt, you said that's for high school students?
High school age students, yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
get
and that'll be
pretty
incoming 9th through 12th grade.
Do you get pretty good attendance from that age
There
group?
has been pretty decent attendance in the past,
Yeah,
and of course the weather has a lot to do
That
with
age
it,
group?
yeah.
That's,
It's
started
usually upwards
this-
of 100 sometimes.
About 100.
Yeah.
We started this 9 years ago as the fallout from the horrific accident that took 4 young ladies' lives. That's when it all started.
so it's always been high school students?
We have 5 pool parties.
That's what I thought. Okay, I was just curious about how many
3 for
at the
high
high
school
school.
kids, 1 for middle school kids, and then
Yeah.
National Night Out that we
Yeah.
collaborate with our
Yeah, I don't have it in my report, but we are starting to gear up for National Night Out as well again. This will be, we started this event in 2005, so this will be the 13th year that we've done it. We're having meetings with some of the folks who are with the FRN and other entities to begin planning. We're going to start that next week. Council Lady Capari, we got your message today about the 4th of July event. We do plan on participating in that and having a presence at Jawbone Park during that event on June 30th. Also attached, the monthly activity report for the police department for the month of May. It's with your packet. I won't go into it. It's kind of a miniature version of the annual report that I present to council each year. Over the years, I've been back and forth on this. I used to present this regularly to council, and then at one point I was told it was too much information, so I stopped presenting it to council. So through conversations that I've had with council persons, I do understand that there are questions about just what the activity is with the police department and you know, what all we're into. And so I'll once again provide my monthly activity report. There will be some discrepancies you'll find if you compare this to the annual report that I'll bring back to you at the first of next year. And a lot of that is due to the overlap that we have with criminal cases from month to month. Sometimes we won't discover, for instance, if I report that there were 60 plus criminal reports in May, that's what I know of right now. We may have another crime that's reported or a couple of crimes that's reported a month or two from now that occurred in May. So it'll back count when I recount those numbers. The clearance rates will also change as well because, again, the overlap. We may not have enough information to make an arrest as of the writing of this report. Maybe a month, 2, 3 months, X amount of months down the road, we will. We also do case reviews twice a year. A case review is we print out all of the pending open cases, and we're able to do that from our records management software. And we're able to, from that, able to tell which officers assigned to which case. So we make a list of each officer's open cases and assign that back out to them and ask them to give reasons for why it cannot be closed. And a lot of times it's lack of evidence, lack of any type of leads or anything like that. But they do, we give them a deadline, they report that back to us as Supercourt myself. And Lieutenant Loudon assists with this, but we review it and go through each open case to see if it in fact can be closed or if any additional follow-up needs to occur. So we do that twice a year. We do it at the first of the year, and then we're in the process of doing one right now. And the deadline for the current case review is just after the 4th of July. So again, that will change some of the stats as well as we begin to reevaluate our cases and do that as well. One thing that I inadvertently left out, we are keeping better track of warnings, traffic warnings. We started doing that in, I believe, February, and we do it each month, and we try to itemize it just like we do everything else in the statistics. I inadvertently left it out of the report, but I'll have Tim email that out to Teresa and get it out to you guys so that you're aware.
Quick question. Across the top of the column headers?
Yeah, that's our unit numbers.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not, so is each officer assigned a specific unit?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so by
I'm
unit you mean the
301 and
person?
then, yeah.
Okay, so and do they normally work regular, certain shifts. So I'm just curious if you've done any analysis on, you know, what time, which days that are higher.
We have, yeah. Generally speaking, the officers do work fixed shifts.
Okay. So that's
we
why
used to
some of them
rotate
are
years
higher.
ago, and generally speaking, that's if you're on an afternoon shift, that's your shift with your fixed days
Okay.
off. Same with midnight shift. So yeah, so we're able to,
So it's not like
knowing
some of
what
them
each
are
officer is
just
assigned to, we're able to look at this and tell where most of the activity is. And the day shift has by far the bulk of the activity between offense reports and accident reports. We take a lot of that.
And I too have a quickie, Matt. Under misdemeanor arrest for May, the petty larceny is 8, and then the possession of a controlled substance is 8.
Yeah.
Is it related?
Oh, I don't know if there's any direct link between these two types of stats, but specifically, but generally speaking, if you have a drug problem, then you will have a theft problem. So,
Right,
you know,
right.
I'm sure a lot of it is,
Yeah.
but to be
Might not
able
be
to
the same
say
people that know.
these 8 were
Okay.
also, you know, I can't say that for certain. But
Matt, on your monthly police activities, you list 226 citations,
yes,
which, taking that out a year, is 2,712. And I think a spreadsheet that I shared with you, in 2016, you had about 2,300 citations. The Shropshire County Sheriff's Department had about 338, and the Buckhannon Detachment of State Police had about 880. Looks like we're going to have 400 more tickets this year than we did last year, if this month is reflective of ongoing ticketing. So I guess I just need to hear what, it looks like one officer is writing 33% of the citations. What's your thinking, and how do, and also when you're tracking warnings now, but when we did this 6-year spreadsheet of in a comparable, you were at that time about 3 citations for 1 warning, where both the Sheriff's Department and the State Police were 3.2 to 3.8 warnings per citation. So I just would like to hear what your thoughts are on it.
one thing that I'll point out to you, and I started doing this because we've always had questions for at least for a few years now about our citations, and we used to just report just a flat number of how many citations we wrote. Like for instance, 226.
Right.
And the perception at that time was, oh my gosh, don't speed in Buckhannon because they write 226 speeding tickets.
No, 140 of the 226 were no seatbelt.
So what I started doing in response to that perception was itemizing the types of traffic tickets. And a traffic ticket is not a traffic ticket. It's not. You can't. You're comparing apples to oranges if you're saying a ticket's a ticket's a ticket, because it's not. Especially if you look at. I'll direct you to no insurance carried. There were 24 of those written in the month of May.
Right.
9.9 times out of 10, that particular citation is dismissed because the individual actually does have insurance. It's just a situation where if we pull them over at the roadside and they don't have the insurance card on them, or if they have an insurance card on them and it's expired, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll go ahead and issue the citation for no proof of insurance, and they have until the court date that we assign on the citation to come back into City Hall and show that they in fact do have insurance for that vehicle on that particular date. When that occurs, then it's dismissed. So I feel confident saying that probably all, if not all, of those 24 citations were dismissed because they didn't have insurance. I'll also direct you to expired MVI sticker. That's the inspection sticker in a vehicle. And
Six.
there are 6. in the statute for requiring vehicles to have inspection stickers, of course, that's for West Virginia registered vehicles. There is a 3-month grace period. Okay, so if your inspection expired last month and you're stopped and you're given a citation for no proof of or expired MVI sticker, you have 5 days to come in, or actually to go and get your vehicle inspected, get proof of that inspection, bring it into City Hall, at which time that is also dismissed. And again, very similar to the circumstance with the no proof or no insurance carried or no proof of insurance and they actually have insurance. The vast majority of the time, that's what occurs. The inspection is not beyond the 3-month grace period, and they're able to get that dismissed. So if you compare just those 2 examples to a speeding ticket, you're talking about apples and oranges.
Well,
that's why I started to itemize to show that, just because we have 226 tickets doesn't mean there 226
These
people
other
getting.
departments are, if they're writing those same tickets, are experiencing the same rate of rescission or cancellation of citations. And
Yeah.
the gross numbers are the gross numbers which we're talking about.
Yeah, so I've only seen the gross numbers from the other departments. I'd be curious to see if they itemized it. I don't know if they do or not. What types of tickets each of those other agencies are writing. And again, we lay it all out there. This is why I itemize to show that there are differences in the types of citations, and those are just 2 quick examples. One other example that I will give to you is the no seatbelt. No seatbelt led, and almost always does. That's why I break it down into the top 5 at the end of the year. There were 140 seatbelt citations written in May. May is actually considered what's known as a blitz period for the governor's highway safety program. You see commercials on TV about click it or ticket, and that's their program for inspiring seatbelt usage. And again, the goal really behind that, and has always been for the governor's highway safety program, is to increase the usage of occupant protection, which West Virginia was one of the lowest states when we first became involved with this program about 17 years ago. We had about a 49% usage rate, and now we're upwards of 89-90% usage rate in the state of West Virginia, which is tremendous. And the belief behind that is, if more people use their seatbelts, if they happen to be involved in an accident, that the likelihood for it to result in a fatality is reduced. So that's the reasoning behind that. That's why they have blitz periods. That's why you see this number as large as what it is, because May was a blitz period for seatbelt usage. If you're issued a citation for no seatbelt, it's a flat $25 fine. There are no court costs or any other fees that can be assessed with that particular citation. It's $25, and in addition to that, no points are assessed against the license. Now, if you had any other type of moving violation, like speeding, we wrote six speeding type citations, which, if you compare it to the overall number, is a very minimal percentage of the overall 226 citations that we wrote for May. Speeding tickets can run upwards of $200. The fine for that is generally only, it's like $5 or $10 for the fine, right? Where you get you on speeding tickets is the court costs. And that happens whether it's the city of Buckhannon or the magistrate court in Upshur County or any other county. The court cost is what makes speeding tickets so expensive.
And that goes to the state?
There's percentages, yeah. There's a breakdown that goes to regional jail fees, training fees, domestic violence fees. The city has a police fee that it assesses to its tickets. But it doesn't, the seatbelt, there's no other fees or costs or anything like that can be assessed to seatbelt tickets. It's a flat $25 fine, as opposed to getting a speeding citation that will run you upwards of $200. Plus, anywhere from 3 to 6 points on your license, depending on what the speed is. That's not the case with no seatbelt. And that's why I stand up here and say there's a ticket's not a ticket. You can't compare one to the other. Question.
Yeah, is there a way to tell, because you're going to issue citations where there's more than one offense.
Yeah.
And so that 226, that's the number of offenses that were charged. That's not necessarily the number of
People,
citations
that is correct,
that
yeah.
were pieces of paper that were issued.
That's correct.
So that's an important thing to keep.
Yeah, and I always try to point that out. That's harder to tell unless you actually get down and go through each and every ticket, which that's painstaking to do. I can tell you the 3 citations, and I can say this because I speak from personal experience because it's my own calling. The 3 citations that I wrote in May were 1 traffic stop. And that traffic stop wasn't because I was out running radar or looking for somebody to write a ticket to. It was because I got a call of a domestic that was supposedly occurring in the car. And I stopped the car at the fast stop out here on North Locust Street. And as I engaged the driver, I separated the driver and the passenger, and I was able to determine that it was a verbal domestic, that there was nothing physical that went on. I went so far as to call the complainant because it was a third-party call that had called. They saw him arguing over at the North Buckhannon Park, and they left there. And of course, they called the police. I was able to intercept them where I did. Called the caller. They said, we just saw them arguing. We thought it was going to escalate into something physical. We didn't see it physical. No signs of physical. So I ruled out the domestic. However, the driver had a suspended driver's license for DUI, second offense. In fact, he was due in court. He had been arrested for driving revoked for DUI, second offense, back in April, and was due in court the day before I pulled this car over, and he didn't show up for court. So I arrested him. I forthwith him on that traffic violation. That's a jailable, arrestable offense. The vehicle also had the wrong plates on it. It was actually a Durango. It was oddly enough the plates that came. If you ran the plates came back to a Durango. The car I stopped was a Durango, but the years were different. The serial numbers were different, so it was improperly registered. So he was given a citation for that when he was arraigned at the magistrate court. The female passenger that was in the vehicle, that was her vehicle. She knew he was suspended for DUI. However, she allowed him to drive. Under West Virginia law, if you own a vehicle and you allow an unlicensed or a suspended driver to drive your vehicle, you can be charged for permitting an unlicensed driver to drive. She was charged with that. So that's 3 citations out of the 226 from a domestic call.
So see, that represents the 3 citations and 301, which is you?
Yeah.
Is there a reason to use numbers instead of names for privacy?
That's police lingo for you. We refer to each other as numbers. When we talk on the radio, I'm 301 to the comm center, or 301 to each other when we call radio to radio. That's your number, not a name.
And we have 3 officers, 302, 304, and 5 who wrote 0. Maybe they weren't working. But we have 3 officers that wrote 78% of the total number of citations. Out of 9, how many officers do you have now?
There are 10 represented on here because Tanner Collins is 311. He started at mid-May. Well, actually, I take it back. There's 9 because 305 was Nick Kaner, and he had already left the department. And so you'll see his columns just is blank. 304 is Mark Stewart. He was in the academy school the whole month of May. And 302 is Doug Mountain.
Matt, real quick question. The category calls answered, that literally means a call is placed to the Upshur County Comm Center and an officer responds, or does an officer initiate contact with someone, say via a traffic stop?
Yeah, right. So that's a broad definition. It's not just the 911 calls, and it's not reflected in my monthly reports, but it is my annual reports. When I compile the annual report, I'll get the breakdown of calls from the comm center to show how many 911 calls. So if you reflect back to my annual report, you'll see calls answered, which is the broader definition. I'll explain that here in a second. And 911 calls, and that's as per reported from the 911 center. And I'll put that in the annual report. I also break down the top 5 911 calls for the year in the annual report. I just don't get the report each month. I just do an annual breakdown. The broader definition of call is it includes 911 calls. So that domestic call that I got, that was a 911 call. That was radioed to me from the comm center. That counted as a call on my sheet that day. But beyond that, a call is also, and you'll see this a lot more so during the day shift, is people calling the city hall or the police department wanting to report something to the police. And we see a lot. In fact, I get more calls during my day shift from people calling directly into City Hall or the police department or coming into the station than we get 911 calls. Not saying we don't get 911 calls during the daytime, but if you just compare, we see a lot more people coming to the station to report crimes or calling us directly. And each one of those circumstances counts as a call. Anything that, I guess to put a broad definition to it, anything that is requiring our service and demands our time is a call. So those 3 examples that I gave, or it could be something as I'm out on patrol and somebody flags me down and waves me over and wants to report something. That's a call because that's demanding.
The bottom line is someone is requesting your services,
Yes.
not you go. So a call doesn't count as a call if you have an officer sitting in a vehicle watching for speeders coming off of US 33.
Right.
That doesn't count as a call.
No.
Only if someone is requesting services of any kind.
Yeah.
That's a call.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and we do have a breakdown in our hours. If you look at the sheet just after the header sheet is what is titled Police Activities.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the second sheet that says Monthly Activity Report, the top half of this is a breakdown of our hours, how we spend our hours on each of our shifts. And so calls is reflected in this, but everything such as community policing hours or road patrol hours, the example you gave, sitting and watching for speeders, would count as a traffic hour. So if I'm sitting running radar, or traffic hours could also be investigating accidents or directing traffic, like at the Strawberry Festival. So there was a little more of that with some of us during the month of May because of Strawberry Festival.
Thanks, Matt. Kalia, you're going to report in July about that.
Yes, I've got a couple phone calls out, waiting to hear back from some of the chiefs. I got a list of questions that I'll engage with them. Hopefully have a report from council next time.
Council Lady Perry.
If you would replace your current firearms, what will you do with the old ones?
We would like to have the option to give the officers the opportunity to purchase them.
Okay. And another thing, do you keep track of sex offenders, especially pedophiles, where they are located?
We do not. The state police does. The state police is tasked with maintaining the sex offender registry, and we have access to that through their website, as does the general public. You can access it on West Virginia State Police, wvstatepolice.com.
Okay.
You can zone it in on a certain geographical area.
That was my next question.
West Virginia Sexual Offense Registry, you'll get it 55 hits, county by county.
One other question. How far is somebody allowed to, say, reside close to a school or to a playground?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay.
To be able to, Tom, do you know off the top of your head? I don't.
Reason why I'm asking this, I was told there's a couple that's living very, very close to a playground.
Are they on the registry, or should they be registered?
I think they're on the register.
Okay. If you want to give me a call and discuss that in detail, we can look into it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Kalia in July, right?
Thank you.
You're going to reach out to Parkersburg?
Yeah, like I said, I've got a phone call out to him, try to reach out to him, and wait and call back.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, I would have a question maybe to Councilman Riles. When we're looking at, are you thinking these tickets are legitimate? Are you trying to say that we're ticketing too much in this city? Are you trying to say that if someone comes here and says, don't speed in Buckhannon, that that's a bad thing?
I'm not drawing conclusions, I'm just looking at the facts, which we seem in the city of Buckhannon to write a lot more tickets than our Upshur County Sheriff's Department or the Buckhannon Detachment of the State
People
Police.
travel in the city of Buckhannon as opposed to the county as well, you know, by far.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, everybody comes from the county to the city, and then they disperse to the country, but everybody comes here, so you're gonna have 10 times the vehicular traffic or more.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that.
Well, they're gonna come through City Hall,
hear
through
you.
the street light, through to the 4-lane. But my broader question is, it comes up a situation here of writing tickets, and it's like it's a big no-no. Like, we don't want to have a record. If I'm looking for a city to move to, I want to say, are you arresting drug offenders? Are you arresting, if it's a retirement community, do we see this arrest going on? Do we see speed being controlled? If I see no tickets being written, I think hell's breaking loose there.
Well, I guess that's your prerogative.
Well, I mean, if no tickets being written, where would we live?
Well, I guess I'll ask you, what type of police behavior makes you feel safe?
Well,
and what type of police behavior builds trust and cohesion with the community?
I think that the rules are on the thing, and especially with
So all
the offenders,
rules
they're
should be
speeders.
enforced uniformly?
Well, with reason, yeah. And when I see what these offenses are, I don't think anything's unreasonable.
Well, I guess you're just going to have to, study the situation to
I
draw,
do.
and get accurate information to base your decisions on, which is part of the process that I've undertaken to look at it.
Right.
In contrast
I have
to
seen
other,
people here raise a flag like, compare our tickets to Weston. Well, I don't care about Weston's. I care about what our laws on the books and what's enforced in this
Well, then
city.
who do you
And if
compare?
someone says, don't speed in Buckhannon, I think that's a pretty good thing. They've got a reputation for writing speeding tickets over there. Well, if you do, if that's what they say, then good.
and there are correlations to traffic stops and affecting other crimes, and I think we just need to,
Right, but
compile accurate information to draw conclusions.
Just throwing stats about one city and another compared. I have nothing to say about what the stats are in Weston or something here. If those rules are on the books and these are legitimate things, then I think it's law and order.
I think Matt explained it really well, that a ticket's not a ticket.
Right.
And I think when you compare those numbers, so what I've heard from people, which, I get what you're saying, but what I've heard from people is like, oh my gosh, look at the number of citations, there must be a lot of crime in Buckhannon, right? Which is different from your perspective of, must be keeping us safe. So I think it's a matter of perspective, and I think that Matt's caution about not just counting how many, but thinking about what
But in the past few months, among other people, I've had people saying, don't write tickets. That's the message being given. Don't write tickets, go.
Well, you got to also understand culturally, when you see that the state police over 6 years and the sheriff's department over 6 years have written an average of 3.2 to 3.8 warnings per citation, and that although Matt's record keeping on warnings up until February or whenever we first discussed this wasn't available, that we were at 0.68 warnings per citation. So it's, what do we want to say, or what do we want to develop culturally? And if you have, how do you, within the department, if you have 3 officers writing 76% of the citations, why isn't that you spread uniform through the culture?
Night shift and evening shift, and day shifts are going to write more tickets than night shift.
And if that correlates with the officers that are writing more tickets, that's a possibility. But you're going to have to study it and find out exactly what's happening.
The chief would know if someone was writing tickets all night long.
Well, I think, yes, he does.
But there have been other comments made at other meetings about writing tickets here. Now, we're supposed to be looking for a seniors community here, and someone looking here, if they're having their lawyer having to look at the possibility of living here, they're going to study that. And if there better be some show of law enforcement here, we're just going to say bap, 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 then I'm thinking, boy, you're getting away with a lot there in Buckhannon, aren't they?
Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome.
I get your, it's a compelling dialogue that we're going to continue, and we're going to get into some other police stuff here down below in just a couple of minutes. But let's get back to our agenda. You have a half a ton of correspondence and information items, including the freshwater, this is exciting stuff, freshwater mussel survey bid opening results that Jerry commented about earlier. We've talked about the DEP award. There's a letter that I want to explain D3 just very briefly. There's a letter that we received from Atlantic Coast Pipeline, which is requesting a letter from us of no objection concerning their going below bedrock in the Buckhannon River with the pipeline project. We are weighing that. We will be sending a letter to Atlantic Coast Pipeline saying we neither object or don't object at this point. We're awaiting further information. And so you know, we have been negotiating with representatives of the company concerning some assurances that they would make concerning things like funding an extra monitoring device on the Buckhannon River. If there was a problem as a result of some catastrophic failure, we would know about it sooner than later. Another facet with ACP is they tend to go to these communities where they're putting in these big lines and they spend $1 million putting in a temporary water tank, which they then raise and poof, it's gone. Well, we're building a new 1.2 million gallon tank on top of Victoria Street Hill, and it's going to cost us about $750,000 to do that. So we're making a pitch to the pipeline folks that, look, instead of you coming in and wasting $1 million on something you're going to tear down 2 years later, why don't you give us the money? Let us build something that would be a permanent part of our water system. We'll do everything you need relative to this part of the project. So that's, I probably just shot down all of our negotiations. Anyway, in the spirit of transparency, we're having a discussion with the company.
Have you started the discussion?
Oh yeah, they had 3 agents in here just last week. So that's the kind of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. That we're trying to get things worked out. We won't do anything until we bring it back to the water board and the council. But that explains that letter. Darren Hissam successfully completed his test and is now promoted to the rank of corporal. That's in your packet. There's a notice from the Police Civil Service Commission accepting applications for the police department's eligibility list. And we'll talk a little bit more about that down below, but our potential, if we had another officer who became ill or decided to resign, retire, or whatever it would be, we have no pool of candidates right now. So that's what that's about, is reestablishing a current pool. D6 is the dog park letter of support, a grant application to try this West Virginia. And then D7 is a letter from the Town and Gown Marketing Research Project requesting my permission that they use city residents. The college requires students doing surveys to submit to the Institutional Research and Review Board consent of folks to do certain things. So that's largely what that is. In your consent agenda, it consists of 3 items. The approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of June 1st, of our special meeting relative to police interviews on June 13th, the approval of our building and wiring permits, and finally the approval of the payment of our bills. I would love to entertain a motion that we approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Council Lady Albaugh put her.
We all want to pay our bills.
She's not talking anymore. She just
raised her hand.
She
That
raised her
doesn't
hand.
count.
So I'm going to say she made the motion and Mr. Ryland seconded it. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of approving our consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Our consent agenda is approved. Which takes us down to strategic issues for discussion. We've already done F1, the environmentally conscious initiatives. F2, additional funding for downtown Christmas banners. Council Lady Capari, just about the time of our last meeting, or maybe the day before or after, asked about the city's opportunity to order more Christmas banners, and it's a fire sale on the Christmas banners. If we buy it by the end of June, we get a discount. And Amby's back there ready to shoot all of us for even thinking about this, because she's trying to close out the books, and now we're talking about buying more Christmas banners. And it's all Council Lady Capari's fault, Amby.
Well,
I want you to know.
Got it in the mail, and
So,
you
anyway.
buy one, get one, half.
So it's basically 25%
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
It'll happen again.
How many additional
more
ones
do you
do we need?
Well, I'm not totally sure, I should add that. I'm guessing 10 to 12. And
10 to 12 banners?
Uh-huh.
At how much a pop?
Well, they went up to $79 a piece last year, but because the amount I ordered, I ended up getting for like $39 a piece, okay?
All right.
So I'm guessing, I'm sitting here trying to figure out, I'm guessing $600 will cover what I need.
How long do the banners last? What's the life?
They're stored properly,
Probably
10
for
years.
Do you have to order the banners by June 30th, or do you have to pay for the banners by June 30th?
Well, I'll probably have to order them and then when they,
About 600.
About 600.
Not how should.
She's saying a
10 to
dozen
12.
banners.
How many?
A dozen
12.
more?
On East Main Street, I think we need, there's 42 poles, there's 6 up, so I think there's 36 more brackets and 36 more banners.
Yeah, I was thinking more like.
What I'm saying
If we
is
could
we're
put
doing
them on
every
the
other
pole.
one
Right.
instead of every one.
Yeah.
And we used some that we were going to be putting down Safety Complex and Jawbone.
Yeah, I told those brackets, we don't think we'll have to get the brackets
Uh-huh.
from there. So you're still looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 brackets and flags or banners to do every other pole. Somewhere in that neighborhood.
When I discussed this, Mayor, I was hoping we were going to go to the college, that's why.
Yeah, because they've got money hand over fist, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're in the middle of a presidential change, and I don't know, Pam. I can have a
Maybe we could
discussion,
wait and
but
see.
Why don't we hold off on this? for
Yeah, hold
another-
off and wait and see and.
they'll probably have
It's
another,
$1,000 then.
they'll have another fire sale in July, probably.
They will.
I mean, it's up to the council. If you want to direct an allocation of $600 or some amount, that's up to the council.
If you need 600,
Yeah.
it's, if you need 16, it's 950.
Yeah.
I think we have to look at where our city is celebrating Christmas. Is it going to, where do we want to focus our Christmas celebration? Obviously on Main Street between the courthouse and City Hall, that being the commercial district of Main Street. Are we planning to have an event in Jawbone Park this year? Do we have banners for Jawbone Park? It sounds like some of those were taken to put down on East Main.
We ordered more, so we'd be covered then.
So we are covered in Jawbone Park.
Yeah, that's what we had planned on doing with what we had.
So we're not covered.
But what I'm saying is, we used them down East Main Street because that wasn't ready. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
You're right.
okay.
Okay, so, but
But they,
if we put the banners in the exact same places as we did last year, there would not be banners for Jawbone Park
No.
as of this conjunction.
No, or
Okay.
Safety Complex, no.
Well, we are putting, is it 7 new light poles in Jawbone, Jerry?
8, right?
I forget. 7. And
And
then there will be 7 also in the public safety complex lot. So that's 14. We're probably not going to be done with Stockard by Christmas time. So 14 banners would do Jawbone and the public safety complex.
Again, you have banners and then there'll be an expenditure for bracketing.
For the brackets. Those run what, about $30?
I think the last ones were mid-30s.
That's what I was thinking.
For one.
For one pole, it's one set, so.
I'd
it's
feel a
one
whole
pole.
lot better if we had, we're hedging about how about we do this? May I make a suggestion? Let's put this together. Let's have a dollar and cent amount at the July 6th meeting. I bet you we can, if you talk to these people at the company and say, look, because of government, our next meeting isn't until July 6th. We need a dollar and cent amount for 14 banners or 18 banners or whatever the magical amount is.
Give them a locking
Give us
in
a
with that
bottom
price,
line
locking in
amount.
that price.
And also
30
by
days.
July 6th, we will know where we are as far as our carryover. And I certainly would endorse that we spend, $800, $900, $1,000 to satisfy the next phase that we talked about last
Right,
year for our
right.
Christmas decorations. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good to me.
Okay?
That make
Does
you happy, Amy?
Does that sound good to everybody?
Okay, that's good. Amy's happy.
Let's, July 6th, Andy, will you remind Teresa to put that on the agenda for the July 6th meeting? All right, Pam, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I gotta go door to door. The people run to the other side of the street when they see me coming to raise money, though, I tell you. Okay, discussion about the long-term parking lot area. I think, I'm trying to remember who asked me to put that on the agenda. I think it was a combination of Amby, Jerry, and Councilman Rylands, I think.
CJ.
So let's blame it on him, right? We've kind of been in no man's land.
So we have some, this all goes back to how we're going to modify the ordinance.
Yeah.
And when is that work going to get done and when do we do that?
That's a good point. And that's not the only issue. We started, as we put that new policy in place in January, there were 4 or 5 other things that we noticed needed tweaked. And I have not had a conversation with Tom O'Neill, and I don't know if Amby has either, but maybe next week we can circle the wagons for half an hour.
I'll be out of town next week.
You're going to be out of town next week? You're going to the beach, huh? I see the way.
Going
it
to
is.
the Boy Scout camp.
We'll get together with Tom at a very soon time to discuss those handful of issues with the parking ordinance so that we can tweak it and figure out what we're doing with the long-range parking lot. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, I'd
Andy,
like to get,
Jerry?
our Morgan involved, she's the one that's out there doing traffic enforcement, so get her thoughts and anyone else that has some comments. I'd still like to try to, have we ever got any quotes for upgrading the kiosk into credit cards or a way to simplify that process?
The issue with that is somebody drops 50 cents in the thing, we get charged $1 by the credit card company for them processing a 50-cent thing in the kiosk. That's the issue. You're
So
gonna
you got a
get,
transaction fee, or
Yeah.
do we have a
Yeah.
credit card processing company at the city that pay?
yeah, you can pay online your water bill tomorrow if you want. I'd suggest that.
It's capable
They
of,
really pay off to
it's capable of doing that, but that law was mostly permit, so the money we generated from people paying was less than the fees for the credit card.
So if they're putting a dollar in there, and then the 25-cent transaction
There was
fee
this
and a
percentage.
3%.
Yeah, there was this percentage, and then there was a
And if it
minimum.
costs us a couple thousand to modify the equipment,
Yeah,
Tough to justify it.
I think we just need to look at all the, and comprehensive, and but when we change it this time, that it'll last more than a couple of months,
Let's, week after next, let's get our committee together with Amby's hit list of a handful of things that we have problems with. We'll bring Tom into the discussion, figure out what we need to do to modify that ordinance. We're not talking about gutting it. They're just a tweak here and there. Tim?
Just a potential of using a magnetic strip at the kiosk. They could buy a card, you could find a card that bought at City Hall that's good for 30 hours or something, and then you could just swipe it there like you do the metro in the cities.
You better be careful, buddy. You're gonna get appointed to a committee. You go mild enough like this. Oh, yeah, we want him on the committee. Well, we'll add that to the list for our discussion. So that's a good idea.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, we'll resolve this. The approval, possible, of the hiring of a probationary police officer. We have had 3 different special meetings of the city council during the last 3 weeks. And we have interviewed, as certified by our Police Civil Service Commission, 3 very compelling candidates all of whom impressed us. I dare say if we were in a position to hire more than one police officer, we would probably hire 2 or 3 of these folks, but we only have one opening. So, council, we have interviewed the 3 candidates. I would entertain a motion, if that's the will of the council, on the hire of our next full-time probationary police officer. Well, you gotta, you gotta tell me.
She was happy with all 3 of them.
No, not really.
I heard the first part of your motion, Mrs. Albaugh. Do you?
I can't remember his name.
I
I'll make a motion that we hire Charles Chris.
Also known as Sam Chris, right?
Yes.
Okay. We at least she didn't say Quick Draw McGraw or something like that, right? Council Lady Albaugh has moved that we hire Charles, also known as Sammy Chris, and I heard Mr. Thomas second that motion.
Yes.
Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I will call for the question. All those in favor of hiring Charles, Sammy Chris, as our next police officer, probationary for the first year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The minutes will reflect that that motion carried unanimously. Okay. And we will notify, or Matt, you'll notify the other excellent candidates that they will continue to be on our list, and we appreciate them taking the time to interview us. Okay. That takes us down to F5, which is discussion. Possible action, but maybe it's just discussion, concerning the hiring of an information coordinator for the city of Buckhannon. I have provided to the council by email attachment earlier this week this proposal. The public doesn't know about this yet, so now we're going to tell everybody about it. I have observed, not just during the 13 months as mayor, but going back, I can't divorce myself from that 33 years that happened before with my other earlier life as a city employee. This is an attempt to fill several needed areas with the proposal of adding one full-time position to our city payroll. This is the job description for what I will call an information and grants coordinator and programs facilitator, City of Buckhannon, West Virginia. 1, trained, formally educated, and experienced in both oral and written communications, the information and grants coordinator, hereinafter coordinator, will serve as a city point of contact with the external community and press, all as overseen and authorized by the Director of Finance and Administration and Mayor. The coordinator will proactively engage local residents and press to share information via press releases, newsletters, and announcements of all matters involving the city. This includes general promotion, as well as notification of city activities and events via all appropriate mediums, that is traditional, city website, social media platforms, hard copy documents, etc. The coordinator will be a sharer of information to and from the city in all forms. 2, the coordinator will work closely with the mayor, city council, directors of finance and administration and public works, supervisors of utility boards, police and fire chiefs, Stockert Youth Center director, and Gibson Memorial Library supervisors. The coordinator will receive, process, and redistribute appropriate information to the general public and press. The coordinator will be responsible for drafting well-written announcements, notices, and press releases on behalf of city officials and the city of Buckhannon in general. 3, the coordinator will work closely with other governmental entities and community organizations for the purposes of information gathering and sharing. These organizations include state government and other local government, Upshur County Commission, Board of Education, Region 7 Planning and Development Council, Chamber of Commerce, Buckhannon Upshur Convention and Visitors Bureau, Upshur County Development Authority, West Virginia Strawberry Festival, create Buckhannon, and all other community arts, recreational, educational, and sports-focused organizations. 4, the coordinator will become adept with the city's internet website and develop a working use of the website so that appropriate information may be provided regularly and promptly to the public. 5, the coordinator will collaborate to draft, proof, and edit all flyers, pamphlets, brochures, and other documents intended for distribution by the city to enable consistent and professionally prepared information for the public's use. 6, the coordinator will oversee, research, write, or collaborate in writing and editing all municipal grant applications for all city departments and supervisors. 7, the coordinator regularly will prepare newsletters to city employees to inform them of city activities as well as matters related to employee benefits and other items concerning employees. 8, in another role, the coordinator will assist the city in the development of holistic programs associated with the city's Stockert Youth Center, and particularly connecting non-athletic programs to the purposes of the city's colonial/cinema theater multi-use arts center, thereby enriching the youth of our community. The coordinator will assist the mayor and council in promoting capital campaigns for SYC and theater projects. 9, the coordinator will generally promote both SYC and the city's theater, and further shall, upon occupancy and actual use of the theater facility, will serve as the city's primary point of contact for marketing of the theater and booking use of the facility by others. 10, the coordinator will discharge such other general communication, information, and SYC and theater functions as may be assigned by the City Council. 11, the coordinator will become cross-trained in and generally familiar with the functions of City Hall and Utility Board operations so that during emergencies or instances where City Hall is short-staffed, the coordinator may assist in the discharge of City Hall duties and functions. Assistance in taking municipal meeting minutes may also be required occasionally. So we could hire about 6 people to do these things. We need a.
6 points.
Yeah, this started out pretty simplistic, and then I shared this with the rest of the council, and it just kept getting more onerous. So as I'm reading through it, we need a special person if we're going to make this hire. But that's the job description. Let's discuss it. What do you think?
I'm a little concerned. I'm with you until number 8. And I'm wondering if at that point we're piling too much on and maybe duplicating at the same time positions that we already have at Stockert Youth Center. That was my initial reaction when I read this, when you emailed it out. But I thought, well, I mean, yeah. So
I guess it's the definition of coordinator.
Yeah.
Specific what our expectations are, but
Yeah.
I think no matter what you write in this and as specific as you get, it's going to be dependent on the individual and the people that are overseeing that individual and
Yeah.
but I think it's well thought out. It is
I think the
pretty
concept-
comprehensive.
the concept is good because
We need all
we
this.
don't.
We need all
You know, how many meetings have we had at the public safety complex that have been not well attended, and then when it comes out in the record delta, you get people on social media saying, "I had no idea this was happening." So I think, you know, years and years ago, we had local radio stations that were focused here, that had people on the ground here, and they were a beacon of information for the community. We don't have that anymore. The media has changed. So, you know, I think we've kind of gotten lost a little bit in how to quote CJ, tell our story. You know, so we, I think the concept of this position is excellent, and I think we need to seriously consider it. As far as the specifics and the nuts and bolts, I think that's where it leaves it up to, you know, us to maybe just tweak it a little bit. but-
I think, I agree with you. I think conceptually, it's a lot of good stuff in there. I would suggest that we give it some further consideration, David, and,
Yeah.
you know, the timing to me is important as to when we go into effect. If we're going to do a tier program with health insurance, one of the things I think about with that is, you know, we don't want to have too many new employees right away.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the tier thing will go into effect the end of September, the third quarter, rather than the end of December. I think a lot of that has to do with the insurance company and what they're suggesting and
Sure.
so forth. But, you know, a lot of the stuff you have in there is stuff to still be out there, the theater and so forth. That's
Oh, yeah.
not going to be a.
And the theater's
And,
not, we're a ways off from.
And we've been talking about a campaign for Stockard ever
Long
since I've been
time.
on council. And,
Well, and I don't-
I think it's something we ought to do.
I don't want to kick the can too far.
Yeah,
down the road.
I mean, when you look at raising $2 million for Relay for Life, that's a pretty stunning.
20 years.
That's over 20 years.
Yeah, but that's still a
That's still
lot.
a big
That's
achievement
That's
for this
$100,000 a year.
Yeah.
County,
Yeah.
You know,
city.
and people believe in children. That's our greatest investment for the future.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, if we decided tonight to go forward with this, the process is, you know, you're gonna have to advertise it, you're gonna
Oh, yeah.
have to interview, you're gonna
Yeah.
have to hire, there's
It's a
training involved.
2-month process.
That's months out there.
Yeah.
I don't think, you know, the fear of this new hire being under the existing health plan, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think realistically, that's probably more like January 1st.
Could be.
But
Hopefully sooner, but. Yeah,
I'd like to
maybe.
move forward with this. I think that this has been needed for a long time.
Long time.
And, you know, we have to be, you know,
It was in the 2015 plan, or 2010, or was it 2005? I forget.
And there's been various models. of it
2015 was the original aspiration.
There was a model that you were going to go, the city was going to go with the county and/or Board of Education, and have a
Right.
collective grant writer. And
Right.
one or two of the other entities balked, and like, we can't afford that right now.
And who's gonna
It was supposed
come
to be
first?
city and county a couple
Yeah,
of years ago, and
yeah.
then the county.
Right,
was out.
they agreed unanimously and then pulled back.
I started my 35th year of association with the city on June 1st, and I think when I got here in the spring of '83, they were talking about a grant writer back then, you know. We didn't have a website then, but, you know, you get the idea.
Pam wanted
No internet.
Pat?
Why could we not, I mean, there's a lot here.
Yeah, it's a
For
lot.
one person.
Yep.
Why couldn't we not hire 2 part-time people and we don't have to take insurance?
That's the thing.
I mean, 32 hours is considered part-time for me.
You are not going to get a committed professional
No, to work part-time.
with the education and experience and training for something like what we're talking about. To say, I can work 20 hours a week. It's just,
Especially
I don't see
the
it happening.
cross-training aspect on number 11, which I think in and of itself represents
Amby
significant
could use
value.
another
I think that should be
full-time
the first
person here.
step in her training, is to learn that out there, so she could get a, he or her.
Yeah.
For him, it's a hit.
I'm used to saying she's, because I have a she dog. Anyways, I was just thinking.
Susan?
Amby, financial expert, I assume that you've looked into the financial aspect of this and that we can afford it in
Well,
an
I think there's a
ongoing
lot of
budget. I know there's the savings of previous employees, but
That type of position would be divided among all of the.
okay, that was gonna be my
Yeah,
next
yeah,
question,
yeah.
okay.
I knew that.
And even among Stockard and then whatever happens with the development of the theater. And then, you and Jerry would be supervising this person, or you would be you and?
Provides the director of finance and the mayor.
Right, oh, okay.
So I suppose.
But
So I guess-
that
so my
person
question-
would work with Jerry very closely.
Yeah, so I guess my question is,
Or
when I look at
closely
this job
together.
description, it looks like some, like, I agree with Robbie. Number 8 on looks like some competing priorities for 1 through 7. In terms of having to help that person identify which is a priority among all of these things. It does look like 2 or 3 jobs to me.
It's a lot of stuff.
And the other challenge that I see with having these so many diverse tasks is finding a person who has the capabilities of doing all of this. Because just because someone can research and write grant proposals really well, doesn't mean that they can come up with youth programs.
That person
So-
sounds like a city manager almost.
Well,
maybe
somebody who
some-
would supervise somebody to do some of it. I
Maybe
don't
some
think
of
any one
these
person could do
are-
all of it.
Or to be learned.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, yeah, I think a lot of it
A
would
lot of
be
it is to
But-
be learned, that's a good way to say it.
Well,
CJ.
then you have to figure out what kind of
I guess that
characteristics
could
you'd be
come out
looking
in
at.
the interviews or.
I don't know. I don't know how you would.
I think
Because aren't you
it's,
going to want someone who has grant proposal writing experience?
Maybe.
See, that's a separate thing.
Maybe not, maybe we want them to,
I think-
they want to learn who we are, and what
Guess
we are,
not.
and then train them.
I think David pointed out a lot of good things on this description, but I think we have some more time to discuss
Oh,
it.
yeah, we're not gonna do it tonight.
I mean, I wouldn't vote for approving it now. We need to know what kind of salary level we're looking at.
Right. That was going to be my
Yeah.
other question.
A lot of
Yeah.
different.
Well, can we vote to proceed
Oh, yeah.
to?
Well, I don't think we need to do that.
We don't need to vote.
We can
We're
just
doing
have
it.
the will of the council just generally express from our discussion
Okay.
to take it up again at the July 6th meeting.
Okay,
Maybe by then, you guys weigh in and say, oh, I don't like this, or how about this? Let's try not to add any other duties. But the first sentence, I think, is the most important one. Trained, formally educated, and experienced in both oral and written communications. That's what we're looking for, is somebody that, I'll tell you about grant writing, and Susan may take umbrage with this. Grant writing isn't an intuitive, innate trait, it's a skill that you learn.
right.
And,
But there are traits and skills that a person who can write grant proposals.
if they're a good
has.
writer, that's a leg up.
Yeah, but it's a different kind of writing
It is a
than
different kind of writing.
proclamations.
You don't think I've written a grant?
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying it's a different style of, or than a literary blog. It's a different style of writing. That's
Why don't you whereas this?
All right,
No,
whereas
you're right.
it's after
I hear
9
you.
o'clock.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. Okay, so can we agree, without, we don't need a motion. Can we agree that we will put this on the July 6th agenda? It gives us, it's a 5 Thursday agenda. So you got 3 weeks to study this more and to think about further discussion and possible action. As far as starting the process, which is probably going to be a couple of 2-3 month process, as early as the July 6th meeting. Does that sound like a plan?
And meanwhile, you want us to
Give them-
email
give them
you
feedback.
comments?
Yeah, why don't you-
Or
or mark it up and deliver
Respond
it.
to all? or-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, let's not respond all.
No,
Here's
don't
why-
respond all.
Here's why you don't want to respond all. The Ethics Commission says you can have meetings by email,
Oh, okay.
that you can have meetings by email, and you can't have emails.
Okay, got it.
Technically could happen. I could put out there, oh, no, we're not gonna let the public know about this, because it's just gonna be us 7 guys and gals talking, and everybody's having this discussion, and then we show up at July 6th, and, oh, the council has decided. Well, when did you decide that? We decide these things publicly. So if
gotcha.
individually, you let me know your thoughts, concerns,
Okay.
then I can come back ready to provide to you all together, as well as the public. Okay, here's the thoughts that have been
Oh,
generated.
I thought we were just editing the job description. I
You
didn't
can
think we
do
were
that
going to be
too.
discussing.
Yeah, yeah. But we'll discuss it more. Okay, next item is F6, which is a resolution. It's a very short resolution that Jerry Arnold is asking us for a REAP grant submission. Restorative Environmental Action Plan. Action Plan.
it's
Is
a
that it?
rehabilitation environmental action.
Okay, very good.
Eloy, you're rubbing off on me.
It's, be it resolved, oh, it is in there.
It's right there.
God, why didn't you tell me? Gee whiz, making me look like a dope like that. Jeez. Okay, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Buckhannon hereby authorizes the application to the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection Rehabilitation Environmental Action Plan with a total project amount of $75,000. This project will provide for the purchase and installation of equipment to assist in the implementation of the City of Buckhannon's composting program. So, I would entertain a motion that we approve this resolution?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Rylands. May I have a second to that motion? Second by Council Lady Albaugh. Is there discussion on the motion? Jerry, do you want to say anything else about it? We've talked about this before. Waste collection, sanitary board are both on board with it. Call for the question. All those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. This is not set up in a format where we have to do a roll call. It just requires citizen certification that it passed. So that's in the DEP format. We're good to go. F7, recommendation from the facade committee to approve expenditures. We allocated, as part of last year's budget, $10,000 for facade improvements. We have not approved, we did deny one previous application that was not in keeping with the criteria. There are two candidates, applicants, that appeared before the facade committee last week. Was it last week?
This week.
Was it just this week? Time flies. Just this week. And those requests are made by URSA, which is basically Orion Strategies beside Community Care, and Fishhawk Acres, Dale Hawkins' operation. They are expending, one of them is spending just almost exactly $50 shy of like $7,000. The other is spending like $100 more than $7,000. And in keeping with the grant application criteria, they are asking for the maximum award of $2,500 each. If we approve those as a council, we still have $5,000 left in this year's allocation.
Oh, good.
So does everybody understand the request?
Yep.
The committee has made the recommendation to authorize these. It's now up to the council to approve them. I would consider a motion that the council authorize these two facade grant improvements.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner. May I have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a second by Council Lady Capari. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving these two facade grant applications signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The minutes will reflect that the motion carries unanimously. And that takes us down to council comments. And A is for Albaugh. Mrs. Albaugh, what do you have?
Thank you, everybody, for a very meeting, very informative.
Let's do the, Dennis, just wait a minute. Let me get the council comments and I'll call upon you before I wrap it up.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. Go ahead. Mrs. Albaugh?
We had a special retirement ceremony today for the flag, the American flag, and it was very nice. And I appreciate the Stockard Youth Center, Deborah Brockelman and her crew bringing the kids over. It was kind of fun. They kept saying it was so hot, but it was fun and it was educational. And we really appreciate that. And the fire departments that helped also. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it was good.
It was very nice.
Been to several of those over the years. It's always poignant.
The last one, next one we're having is going to be in the dead of the winter.
Yeah. Thanks, Mary. Next up is Council Lady Capari. Pam, what do you got for us?
Well, I just want to remind everybody that the 4th of July event is actually going to be June the 30th this year in conjunction with Festival Fridays. Some of the things we're going to have, Stockard Youth kids will be performing like they normally do on the street around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and the Choral Society will be performing after that. And some things we'll have, and I'm looking for volunteers for the dunking booth. It raised the most money to go toward Stockard Youth last year. And this year I'm having a contest, see whoever gets raises the most money for Stockard Youth in the dunking booth, they'll get an award. We're having a hot dog eating contest again. We're having cake walks, which is very, very successful. We had almost 70 cakes donated last year. We're having competitions in bocce, volleyball, cornhole. We're having bounce house. We're having climbing wall again. And also this year, Shane Turner has agreed to bring his big slide from the carnival. And we're going to have that down in the big grassy area, belongs to Jim Hinkle next to Safety Complex. And we're going to have archery down there also. And fireworks are going to be 9:30 to 10 o'clock. And we hope I get some volunteers for some activities, and I'm needing somebody to raise some money for Stop Review.
And you're collaborating with the regular Festival Friday things,
Yes,
they do
yes,
music and
yes.
jawbone and all that stuff, right? Super,
Yes.
super. Well, come out and support that. Thanks, Pam. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Rylands?
Well, yesterday, or maybe it was today, we had lunch with the German news crew that you may have seen around town.
They came in earlier.
They were, two of them, the two reporters were in here. I did an interview with them for about an hour and a half today. And in the conversations that you have with these people from another country that are experiencing our community for the first time, it's, you know, it appears to when I hear them talking, you know, you don't really realize it because we live here and it's so close to, how very special Buckhannon is. And the perception of these people from somewhere else, another country, usually the news company sends them over here for 3 years at a time. They maintain their homes in Germany and come over here, and they're stationed outside of Washington, D.C., I believe. And the main question they're coming here for was, people around here voted for President Trump, and what are the expectations of those people when they voted for him. And there's the questions in the interview were evolving around that, but it's when you have someone else that connects and they say, we want to come back and there's more stories here, and so we're close to it, and we don't always see it, but we have something very good going on here, and we just build on that.
They were at the service this afternoon, CJ, and talked with us probably a half hour out there after the service was over.
Yeah.
And it was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Mr. Skinner?
I'm good, Mayor.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we know you're good, Robbie.
It's 9:25, so, and I see you've got 5 bullet points under there, so
Arby's closes at 10 and I haven't had lunch yet.
we'll see about this study bus thing.
Maybe it's, speak for yourself, I'm not grumpy. Mr. Thomas, what do you have for us?
Well, I appreciate what everybody's said this evening, and I do have one concern. It has to do with Vincent Smith, and not a concern about Vincent, but I've had a lot of complaints in the last couple of weeks about the way some of the properties look in Buckhannon. And I think, Vincent has the ability to be a little bit more assertive or aggressive at some point in time, using the council as a backup. And I think we need to do that. I think there are some properties that the people just don't really care, and that we may have to take that one other step where we do a citation and then go to city court at some point in time. But I think during this time of the year, it might be helpful to have a council meeting rather than every 3 months with Vincent, to have him come during the good times of the year with the weather and so forth, to do it a little bit more on a regular basis.
We have a Housing Enforcement Board meeting in July.
Right, yeah.
We'll be sure to put that on the agenda, and of course you'll be there for that. And
but
if Tom's available, maybe you could pop in and we can talk about what we can do.
Vincent's planning on coming to the July 6th.
Yeah, David, I've had several council members be concerned about the same thing, that we need to, put our list together of the properties that are really they're disrespectful to the city and to the neighbors. And
I will tell you this, dude. I have had probably on average every 2 or 3 weeks, somebody will call me on the phone and say, you need to size up this property. I said, well, what's the address? I'll send Vince an email. It'll be Tuesday night.
Yep.
And Wednesday by noon, he'll tell me, I've been there, I've got it addressed, and they're working on it, and I've given them till Monday to have it cleaned up. And that's, as a practical matter, that's the best way to do this.
Yep.
It's just stay on the people. Vince will go out and seek them out. So if you have a specific property, let me know, or let Teresa Summers know, or just email or call Vince, and he'll get right on it. That's the way we resolve 95% of these issues.
I just want to make sure we back them up 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think he needs some.
Absolutely we did, absolutely. But I hear you, loud and clear. Susan Alloy,
I'm deferring my time to you.
thanks. Just a few things. I don't have a prepared statement tonight. I've taken enough hits in the newspaper and the social media with awesome possum stuff, so I'm not going there.
Part of my fault.
It was all Katie's fault.
There you go,
right.
Katie.
And contrary to what you read on social media, we didn't spend 3 hours talking about locking people up who put chairs on Main Street. That's a bunch of bunk. We spent 3 minutes on it, and that's, it's just, I don't know, social media, God, it just drives me nuts. But we haven't done any ordinance. We're not fining people for putting chairs on Main Street, but if people would exercise some common sense, we wouldn't have to spend 3 minutes, let alone 3 hours on something that's. But next meeting, you may recall after last year's election that we had 4 new folks coming on board with this city council, and I proposed that we put the appointment list on hold until January 1st. And we acted very promptly on last year's appointments. But now, since we operate on a fiscal year basis, we should take up the 2017-18 appointments at our July 6th meeting. I will come to you with a couple of proposed changes that I have in mind concerning boards, commissions. Nothing like last year where we made some pretty substantial changes, but I will have a couple. And if you all have somebody in mind for a particular position, this isn't all about me, give me a call, send me an email, and we'll talk about it at the July 6th meeting. I was broached by groups on the left and groups on the right. I was hesitant to even bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up because I err on the side of transparency. There were groups on the left, some of them living here, folks living here in Buckhannon, that wanted me to sign on with 300 or 400 other mayors around the country, basically saying we don't care what President Donald Trump does, we're going to stick to the Paris Environmental Accord and so on and so forth. We talked a lot about what we do as a community tonight with the environment. It does not serve us well as a community, and it does not serve me well as your fearless leader to lambaste Donald Trump or to take up for Donald Trump. This is Buckhannon. This isn't Washington, D.C., and it's not Charleston, West Virginia. So with due respect to all of those, whichever side they wanted me to weigh in on, I'm not going there. We don't need to be political on that matter. We're going to continue to do right by the environment here in Buckhannon, and that's it. Matt pointed out, please help get the word out to your kids, grandchildren, neighbors' kids. The first high school pool party is this Saturday, just 2 days from now, 8 to 11 out at the pool. You might note that there's been terrific work already started down at Jawbone that Jerry was telling us about. Stop down and look at the sidewalks are being poured. It's exciting stuff. The Timmy tree has been planted in front of Stockert Youth Center. Looks terrific. We're going to do a formal dedication a bit later on. And that brings me down to the 5 things that are on here. The bicentennial sycamore tree signs are getting ready to go up. Remember, the city bought 3 sycamore trees. They were about $45 a pop, as I recall, so we didn't break the bank with those. One will be installed in Jawbone. They've already been planted. One in Jawbone Park, one to the right of the boat ramp on Wesleyan's as you go down into the river, right to the right. And then the third one is very near the current Pringle tree out at Pringle Tree Park. So we will have a dedication with the signage as they go up in the weeks to come. H2 I've already talked about. H3, Pam Caperi brought up the idea, and I kind of like it, to do something to think about, to do maybe 10-foot tall letters that spell out Buckhannon or Sunny Buck, like Hollywood in California, and put it below the cemetery hill water tank facing out on Route 33. It could be an interesting marketing opportunity for us. Instead of having just big, gigantic, dull white letters, we could do one in blue and white, recognizing the school system, one in orange and black, representing Wesleyan College, one in red and pink with strawberries on it, representing the Strawberry Festival. So we're not ready to take any action on that, but I think it's an interesting concept. It might have a little art element to it. You also have in your packet our newly appointed water board member, Eric Wagner, the article that he did 3 years ago that a couple of you asked to have in the packet, so it's there. September 9th is something that I think will turn out to be a very special thing. We were talking about a 2-3 day event. Matt Kerner with Opportunity House, Mike Kuba at the college, and myself have decided that the best thing to do with a first effort is to have a day, one day event, which will take us in a better direction with the way that we're combating our drug problem. I still haven't gotten any further contact from WVU. We're not getting a whole lot of help from the state or federal government. We're going to have to tackle this from within. We're calling the event, and it's not a laughing matter, but there's kind of tongue-in-cheek, HAHA, H-A-H-A, and it stands for Hope and Help Assembly. Matt Kerner is making arrangements with a fellow by the name of Joshua Wilkie, who is a professor down at the University of North Carolina. He's also reached out, but he doesn't have confirmed yet, the fellow from WVU who did the Iceland study that we had in a package several months ago. And they would be our keynote speakers, while people like Matt, Mike Kuba, and others more local would also speak to families of recovering addicts, the addicts themselves, police officers, whatever group we end up putting together. They want to do it in Jawbone Park on Saturday, September 9th. It would sort of be an all-day thing, and we would have music in between presenters. So you're on notice about that. Real quickly at the community calendar events, things coming up. You've all got this in your packet. Festival Fridays, every Friday, May 26th through at least the first part of September. Second, Friday, June 30th is, as Pam Caperi was telling us, our Independence Day celebration in Jawbone Park, Public Safety Complex and Stockert Youth Center. Tuesday, July 11th, at the Community and Training Room will be the viewing of the acclaimed documentary, Anonymous People, Changing the Addiction Conversation from Problems to Solutions. July 13th, at the water plant, 3 o'clock on Wood Street, is the rededication of the city water plant and the formal naming of it as the Harley A. Brown Memorial Water Plant. Fifth, we're going to designate the homes of Steve Kuntz and Jane Ann Phillips. They share a common birthday, July 19. We'll be doing signs to commemorate their birthplaces, a couple more of our famous authors. 6, on July 28 and 29, that's a Friday, Saturday, we're going to have the first Lurch and Gray All Things Monsters Festival. Details to come. It's an interesting committee, I'll tell you that. We'll talk more about it as we get to the July 6th meeting. 7th, the Charlie Harper birthday, his 95th birthday, is August 4. We're going to recognize him here in town. City Employee Picnic is Thursday, August 10th from 5 to 8 in Jawbone Park. Item 9, Jimmy Panko's 70th birthday from Chicago. We're going to do a statue and bench dedication in Jawbone Park somewhere the weekend of August 18th through the 20th. His birthday is actually the 20th, but it would tie in well with a Festival Friday. The college is collaborating with some of us here at the city to try to bring Jimmy Panko in October to Buckhannon. We are talking with him about it. Details too early to announce anything, but we're hopeful. Music on the River concert, Sherry, starts, what, 2 weeks?
Soon.
Yeah, I think it's the end of June.
That's about 2 weeks.
The ever ambiguous, not
I
gonna
don't
nail it
know,
down.
so, 25th.
Saturday, September 9th, I already told you about the Ha-Ha thing. And other things coming down the pike. The Children's Festival, Truck Fest, Fall Fest, the third diversity day, and it takes us right up to Halloween. So lots of things coming. It's a happening community, and if you're not part of it, please come make yourself a part of it. And I promise, Dennis, before we adjourn a moment.
Thank you, Mayor. I have three things on my mind. Just a general reminder that Channel 3 has a community board. Any public service announcement that you want to generate about anything is free.
Nice.
Just send it to Channel 3.
Okay.
Second thing, last year we had our bicentennial celebration and parade. Are we going to duplicate that kind of activity this year? And
We're talking about a Fall Fest kind of a thing that might tie in with one of the last Festival Fridays, but it's, I'll tell you, Dennis, I and Amanda Hayes and Maria and Deborah Hupp and Charlene, it ended up, there were 30 people that came to our first meeting, and then the second meeting it was 10 people, and then it ended up that 5-6 people did all the work, and it was a heck of a lot of work.
Yeah.
So if you want to be part of an organization, committee meeting or something, I'll come to it and we can talk about it, but I wouldn't want to have a bicentennial thing like we did last year every year. It's just a lot of work.
well, now would be time to bring it up because it's somewhat in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
Even further in the future is item number 3.
Okay?
The Christmas parade. Remember last year you and I talked after the parade about changing it to a Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, that's,
Now is the time to start thinking about that for future reference.
that is
I just wanted to bring that up.
That's the Chamber, CVB, and Fire Department, and I'm not going to usurp them, but if you want to weigh in with those 3 groups and put in that request, that's certainly.
I'll give it a shot
Yeah,
then.
yeah, I will communicate that to the president of the chamber, and
Wait, we'll
I'll
get
see
him on
Jim
camera. There
Townsend
we go.
probably tomorrow, so we'll talk about it, okay?
Yeah, like I say, it's at this time to bring it up to give us time to think about it.
Okay.
And work on it.
Yep.
Okay, I'm done.
Does anybody else have anything for the good of the order? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Don't move.
I have a motion by Mr. Rollins, may I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Thomas, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of adjourn, signify by saying aye. We're adjourned.